Okay, welcome back to Guitar Geekorama. Today we're going to be looking at playing chords on the guitar. One of the important things about the guitar is it's one of the few instruments that you can carry around, it's portable, and you can actually play chords. So a lot of what you're going to be asked to do as a guitar player is play these silly shapes and accompany singers and other musicians. Basically, when you play a chord, the definition of a chord is 3 or more notes playing at the same time, and they create a harmony, which is good for melody or singers or whatever to play and sing over the top of. We're going to learn 4 shapes today. We're going to go through it very slowly. Now, when you start learning chord shapes, it's a little bit difficult. It's challenging on the fingers. Have patience, be patient with yourself, and really look at your fingers very carefully. We're going to put the little chord diagrams alongside the video here, so if you need to pause it and have a look at the shapes, do that, and you'll be able to figure out how all these notes fit together. Okay, we're going to start with this particular chord progression, which is G, D, E minor, and C. Those 4 chords together will pop up in a gazillion songs. This is what we would call the pop progression in G, as in that particular progression pops up so much that it's actually called the pop progression. Now, it might apply in different keys as well, but just for today, these 4 chords we can use for a whole variety of songs. Off the top of my head, No Woman No Cry by Bob Marley. There's a Beatles song, can't remember which one it is now. Which one am I thinking of? Oh, Let It Be, yeah. There's the Adele song, Someone Like You, and also that song from Frozen, Let It Go, uses these 4 chords as well. So if that's one of your favourite songs, learn these chords. I only know that because I have children, so yeah, I have to play that song. Alright, let's have a look at these chord shapes here. The first one that we're going to try is this G major chord. This is what it looks like, this is the shape of the fingers, this is what it sounds like. I'm playing all of the strings, and for today I'm just strumming very lightly with my thumb, brushing across all 6 strings. Let's look at the shape. What you want to have when you make a chord shape is think of one finger that's going to anchor the shape for you, and the other fingers can navigate around that finger. Watch out for your thumb positioning, and also make sure that you're right up on your fingertips. You're going to need nice short finger nails to make sure that you can play right up on your fingertips. The only person who plays with long nails that I've seen is Dolly Parton, and she gets a pass. Obviously she can do what she wants, but for most people you need to keep your fingernails really short so that you can play right up on your fingertips. I've got my 2nd finger on the 3rd fret of the low E string. This gives me a G note, and this is a G major chord. My 1st finger is on the 2nd fret of the A string, just behind that G note. That gives me a B here. I then want the 2 open strings and the next string open as well, the B, and then my 3rd finger, my ring finger, is playing the high G there on the 3rd fret of the E string, the skinny E string. Now when you first start playing this chord, you're probably not going to get a great sound straight away. You'll find that notes might buzz, or notes might not sound very clearly. You'll probably also find that some notes might get muted like that. What you need to do is take your time, adjust your finger, and really try to make sure that you're up on the fingertips and that the strings underneath can ring clearly as well. So that's the shape for G. So make sure that your fingers are nice and clear and in a good shape so that you can hear the strings ringing underneath. When you're fairly comfortable with the sound of the chord, one really good way to memorize the shape is to squeeze very tightly, keep that shape, press your fingers down and say to yourself, either out loud or in your brain, this G major. Then relax those fingers, try it again, G major, relax them again, and then move those fingers away, let them relax. And you will find that because you've engaged the larger muscle groups in your arm and your hand, it's like sports basically. The repetition and the larger muscle groups really help with the muscle memory and remembering these shapes. And as we go through each of the chords, I would really recommend that. Holding the shape, pressing very hard, don't hurt yourself, but as hard as you can manage, saying the name of the chord, G major, then relaxing. The other thing you can do is kind of bounce that shape. But what you need to do every now and again is just check that the chord sounds good. Okay, let's look at the second set from these chords. This is a D major chord. Now, this is a slightly less typical chord, as in it only uses the top 4 strings. So I'm going to skip the low E string and the A string, and I'm just going to play from the D string across the top 4 strings there. Let's look at the shape. I suppose my anchor point here is probably my index finger, which is playing the A note on the 2nd fret of the G string. I then want my 2nd finger to play the 2nd fret of the E string. That gives me an F sharp. And here's the tricky part. My 3rd finger, ring finger, is coming across between those two to almost give us a D shape there, or a triangle shape. This isn't a natural position for your fingers to get into, so it will feel a bit like you're twisted up here, but try and keep your thumb position nice and relaxed. Keep that position best you can. And what I would recommend as well is don't put a death grip on one finger and then try and get the other. That won't work. It makes it much harder for yourself. Keep your finger roughly in position. Let the other fingers find their position. When you think it's right, then put just enough pressure on so that you think you're going to be able to hear the chord. Try and get the sound. Oh, bit of buzz there. So adjust the fingertips. There we go. And once I'm comfortable with that, let's do that same muscle memory technique. I'm going to press a little bit harder and I'm going to say D major to remember that chord shape. Also, what I would do with something like that is with the right hand, I would have my thumb or my pick on the string that starts the chord, because that just helps us to memorize that we're not playing these bottom 2 strings for this chord, we're only playing the top 4. So here we go, D major, then relax a little, take those fingers away, bring them back. And there's our D major chord. 3rd chord in this sequence is E minor. Here we go. That's a nice easy shape, I think. Just 2 fingers on the fretboard there. Now it doesn't matter which fingers you use. Some books will tell you to use your 2nd and 3rd finger because that helps with other chord shapes. We'll use the 1st and 2nd finger and we'll look at the shape here. I'm going to play all of the strings. So I've got an open E string. It is an E minor chord. I'm going to brush across all 6 strings. So there's our E minor. Again, you just want to make it nice and clear. Use your muscle memory technique. Push those strings down. Say to yourself E minor. Relax. Move the fingers away. Make the shape again. And there's our E minor shape. Last chord shape is C major. This is just the 4 chords for this sequence. And this is what I'm trying to play. Again, this chord doesn't use all the strings, it only uses the top 5. What I've got is my ring finger on the 3rd fret of the A string, and I think of this as my root note. The temptation will always be to build the chord from the skinny strings up. That's not a great idea considering that you're strumming down. As soon as you can teach yourself to go from the low strings and build the chord that way, heading towards the ground, it'll help as you start to play faster sequences of chords. So this is my shape. 3rd finger is on the 3rd fret of the A string, gives me a C note. Second finger is on the second fret of the D string, gives me an E note. I need that open G string between it. And then my first finger is grabbing another C note at the first fret of the B string. And I also want this open E string up at the top. So you can see it's quite a difficult chord because I've got two fretted notes, then an open string, then another fretted note, then another open string. So your fingertips are probably going to get in the way for this chord. Again, just listen. If you hear any of that kind of sound, play the note slowly as an arpeggio, play the chord slowly as an arpeggio. Oh, I can hear some buzz, so I'm going to adjust that finger. That string's getting muted, so I'm going to move that finger. That sounds pretty good to me. So I'm going to keep that shape, use my muscle memory trick, keep my thumb on the starting note and say C major. So although this is fairly tricky at first to get these shapes to sound nice, have some patience, just work on that muscle memory technique, and you'll just be able to find after a while that you'll be able to strum these chords quite easily. One of the next tricks is to think of these chords as a sequence. This doesn't sound like music if I play like this. But you probably will sound like that when you first start playing guitar. Everybody does. What's better is if I were to try something like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And you hear how what we're doing there is we're thinking about the song as it's moving along and not letting the shapes of the fingers dictate the speed of the song. We're going to keep the tempo going and try to play these chords in time. That's a lot to remember. Alright, I got it.
Okay, right. In this order, check out our links below, Guitar Gear Pro Armor, Eldritch Guitars. Like and follow our YouTube channel and find us on Facebook. Mm-hmm. Yeah? Mm-hmm. Good. Want me to write it? Yeah.